Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I want to share a hadith, man, from we're going to use Sunan Ibn Majah and give a brief discussion, man, about gentleness in Islam, right? So alhamdulillah and Eid Mubarak, inshallah, bihni Allah ta'ala, man, everybody have a beautiful Eid tomorrow, and hopefully people saying they takbirs throughout the night for the next couple of days. I've been saying them already, beautiful thing. So this hadith, right? Alhamdulillah, man, and this hadith, man, it make me feel warm for some reason. So it says it was narrated from Abdullah bin Amr that a man asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Messenger of Allah, which aspect of Islam is the best? What part of the deen is the best? Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, offering food to the needy and giving salams to those whom you know and those who you don't know. Offering food to the needy, whether you know them or not, whether they're Muslim or not. Giving a good greeting of peace, the salams, to the Muslims that you know, the Muslims that you don't know, and also just people that you know and people that you don't know. When you look at this and see this is the best aspect from Islam, one of them, right? But in accordance with this hadith, okay? We talking about Islam, not ibadah and different things like that, right? This hadith, man, should show us how to deal with our Muslim brothers, man. Whether we like them, whether we have issues with what they're doing, whether they like us or whether they have issues with what we are doing. Because at the end of the day, they are still Muslim. You understand? And if you really have to sit down and think about your Islam. If you have beef, America has 50, 51 states, whatever they done added to, 52 now, whatever it is, 50 states. If you have beef with Muslims in all 50 states, that's a problem. Every country, everywhere where Muslims live at, every place on the planet of Earth where there's Muslims, you automatically have beef with them. Because you don't consider them a part of your organization. That's a problem. At the very least, that's not the best type of Islam to have. To salam those who you know and those who you don't know. This comes with spreading the peace. To be peaceful with the ones who you know and the ones who you don't know. The only time the Muslim is to have some aggression is when they are being attacked. When they are being attacked. Anything outside of that is not a cause for aggression. So I want to tell a true story, man, and it's been in my heart, man, probably about a week, because it really just happened over the weekend, right? So, years ago, I'm Muslim, my brother Muslim, right? We still young at this time, okay? This is in the 90s, like around 96, 97, like 97. Matter of fact, yeah, no, it's 96 or 97. I didn't really live here, but I used to come, needless to say, because it's over with, so, and it's not exposing our sins, but we was still in the streets, right? We was the gang version of Muslims. And at the time, when I first got my Quran, like I was the only one who had one. So I was reading the Quran. Well, it was another brother, but he was locked up at this time, so he had one, but when he came home. So anyway, because I read my Quran, I felt a little different. And like I really was into it. But I was still in the streets. Right? And my brother went through a life-changing situation. And during that situation, he felt like I need to get myself right with Allah. Like if I make it up out of this situation, I'm going to change. I'm going to get right with Allah. So he come up out of this situation and was like, I'm finna start going to the masjid. I'm finna grow me a beard. Like I say, Chicago ain't nothing but a skip away, a hop, skip, and a jump from where we at. So, he started going up to the city, getting thobes, grew his beards out, kufis. So, while we in the street and stuff, we getting those, they not kufis for real, but they still look like them. They really for like people who have dreads and stuff, and you get them at the Korean store. But when you they still look like kufis if you get one that's thin enough. And you see a lot of the African Americans wearing them, in Illinois especially. So he was getting a real kufi. So that was the most we would do. We was wearing them little thick things for people who got dreads or whatever. So every once in a while, one of us would have one of them on. But we don't pray, we don't fast. We the gang banging street Muslims. And I was just fortunate enough to be one that had a Quran, so I was reading my Quran a little bit before other people. So he, went to the city, got him some Quran, some prayer rugs, thobes, cassettes, and all of that. So he was the first African American I seen in a thobe. And when he started growing his beard out, we had never seen him in no beard. So, it'd be patchy and stuff when you first start. And people thought he was going crazy. And I remember it. They wouldn't say it to him. But, they would say little stuff like around me or other people. And I remember I hadn't seen him. Because, I don't live here, but I'm coming here because I'm in the street. So I'm coming here for street reasons, right? And to visit my mom and them, right? So I ain't seen them. So when I'm coming, they like, man, brother, man, you need to talk to him. He looking like this, he this, and this. So I remember I go to a store. Wallahi, I walk in the grocery store and he's in there with the thobe on and stuff. And I remember looking at him, seeing him in the thobe, and I thought it was strange, right? But this is my brother, you know what I'm saying? So we hug. So he's like, man, you need to come to the masjid. And you got to keep in mind, he was in the streets. So, and everything that come with the streets, now he's automatically transitioning quickly. So, his skin starting to look different. Hair starting to look shinier and cleaner. He's starting to look healthier, right? And I'm looking at him, and I can see the peace on him, but he looks strange to me. But we Muslim. And I know this is the garbs of the Muslim, right? So, he telling me come to the masjid and all this and that. He in the masjid and, he cool with the people, with some of the foreigners and what he learning. So I'm like, all right. So he was like, meet me at mom's, you know what I'm saying? Meet me at the parents' crib. So I like, all right, cool. So I don't even know how to make salat or whatever, right? Like I said, we on the gang version. So he was trying to show me, he was trying to teach me how to make salat. He wanted me to come to the masjid. So this is a serious story, man, about gentleness in Islam, right? So I go to the crib with him. I meet him there. We meet there in about he had to do some running. I did some running, so like maybe an hour or two. So we meet at our parents' house, right? So he showing me how to make wudu, but he was kind of forgetting it. So he was like, dang, you know what I'm saying? But he felt like he had the gist of it. So we was getting ready to pray. He finna show me how to pray. But, moms, them house got pictures and statues and, little African statues and all that. So he was like, we got to go outside. We can't pray in here. So we go outside by this tree. And he was like, we got to have a sutra, so we got to get up on this tree. But then he started, he couldn't remember how to pray. He knew to it. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, dang. So he was like, hold on. He was like, and he didn't have his booklet with him. So he was like, you need to come to the masjid with me. So, during this time, I'm still indulging. So I smell like I've been indulging. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, no, I ain't going to go. I'm going to wait till, I'm in a better state. So then he was like, so he talking to me about the prayer. And he said, alhamdulillah, he don't still have the same mindset. But he was like, when you get ready to pray, if another Muslim walk in front of you, you got to jump up and fight him. Like you gotta fight him like you really trying to beat him up. And I'm looking at him like, what? He was like, yeah, man, a Muslim don't walk in front of another Muslim while they praying. Like, you got to jump up, like, not just come up out the prayer. Come up out the prayer and try to beat the person up or beat them up. So I was like, man, that sounds crazy. I was like, another Muslim? He was like, yeah, another Muslim should know better than to walk in front of you while you praying. So then we get to talking about, because his wife, she automatically, like, she in niqab and everything. You know what I'm saying? So like instantly. So then I was like, we was talking about how she made the transition because we sitting on the porch. And then he was like, yeah, man, if you ever see somebody, man, looking at your wife or another Muslim sister, you got to kill them. Now keep in mind, I'm indulging, right? He was like, you got to kill him. So I looked at him, I said, man, what? He was like, yeah, man, you got to kill him, man. So in my head, I'm like, man, that's what they teaching you over there in that masjid? So I told him, man, you know what, man, I ain't going to that, man. I ain't going to that masjid, man. They teaching you that stuff over there? So he was like, no, they ain't say that. But I've been listening to these cassettes. I've been listening to these cassette tapes that I got in the city. So we ended up having to do something. So I rode with him. Matter of fact, we had to go to his house for a moment, which was just around the corner. So I hop in a car with him, and he throw the cassette in, and it was just, it was a bunch of Arabic. And I'm like, man, I know you can't understand this already. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just getting like, he was like, no, but I listened to it to train my ears. So he throw in another one, and then it's a black guy, and, he talking about Islam or whatever. And, he's saying some things, that I ain't quite heard because, like I said, we on the gang version, a little Wharf Dean, Nation of Islam, Moorish American gang stuff all mixed in together. So I'm hearing it, but I'm not paying it no attention. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't paying it no attention. Of course, it was some cassettes by the Salafis. So at this time, I'm not sure if it was Goldie or it was Dawood Adib. Because Abu Uwais had a name. Abu Uwais was thorough, but Abu Uwais ended up passing away. So it wasn't Abu Uwais. It was either Goldie or Dawood Adib. But this was at the time when Dawood Adib and Goldie was kind of like how these guys are now. So anyway, I remember saying I wasn't going to go to that masjid because I'm thinking this is where these teachings come from. And, but I'm listening to it on the cassette. But I'm thinking the cassette is tied into these people at the masjid or whatever. So I'm like, man, I ain't going to that masjid, right? So I'm around, and then I leave. I go back to the city, where I'm staying at, right? Where I'm doing what I do, how I earn my living. So I go back up there. So I come back. So this is like 97 because I'm getting ready to no, this is 97. It's still 97. So I'm getting ready to go to I'm getting ready to move to the West Coast. I'm getting ready to move to the mountains in Oregon, right? I'm finna move to the mountains in Oregon and Clement Falls, Oregon, right? So when I leave and go to Oregon, alhamdulillah, I moved up there, man, because that's when I found out how ignorant I was. Because I'm really out of the environment and I can't depend on the streets for a living. I'm all the way on the West Coast. I can't depend on the streets for a living. All my clothes, except for a couple of things, all my clothes was all black. All my shoes was all black. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out there, I'm looking like a sore thumb. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in the mountains where all rich people live. You know what I'm saying? My dad lived up there. So, I had moved out there with him. So anyway, I stay in Oregon close to the end of 97. Matter of fact, it was 96. I left in 96. So 97. So when I come back, I was in Oregon, a year basically, about a year. So when I come back, he's a little bit more in tune with his dean. So he really in with the masjid. Like he got keys to the masjid. He cleaned the masjid and stuff, right? Now, like I said, all I did was read my Quran and read the Final Calls. I'm still reading the Final Calls newspapers. When we in Chicago, we getting Final Calls. So I had a bunch of Final Calls, and then I had a bunch of, we had like, at this time, keep in mind, it's still in the 90s, so we had all the VHS cassettes with Farrakhan talking, with Malcolm X, some of they, like not some of the speeches you will see, but like Malcolm X teaching in the temples. You know what I'm saying? Farrakhan teaching in the temple, some of his lectures. Not like some of the speeches you will see on YouTube where he was like where Malcolm X was on the news or, those type of things, or when he was kicked out of the nation. So it was like certain tapes when he was in the nation. So, we was listening to that stuff. So he more in tune with his dean and he got keys to the masjid. But I'm still toying with the streets. I come home to toy with the streets and get myself back together, right? And he steady telling me to come to the masjid, but I don't want to go. So one day, I see him with this group. At the time, I didn't know this was a Tablighi Jamaat. And like the stores where the Muslims have stores, and like where they sell, if they sell pork and alcohol in their store, and they wasn't really coming to the masjid, when the Tablighi Jamaat, because the masjid was a mixture of Wharf Deen, half Wharf Deen and half Tablighi Jamaat. Really, the Tablighi Jamaat had took it over. They just hadn't took it over on paper yet. You know what I'm saying? The Wharf Deen still just had their names on the paper. But the Tablighi Hanafis took it over. So the Tablighi Jamaat, you know, when they go out and travel for 40 days, this was one of the masjids where they could come stay. So I seen him with the group, and they would go to like these gas stations or stores that the Muslims own where they sold like pork and alcohol, and try to get them to come to the masjid and stuff like that. So I seen them with the group, and I didn't pay it no mind. But I do remember seeing this little kid with them. You know, he was just a little kid, but he kind of acted, he was acting like he wanted to be in the streets. Kind of, right? So I remember my brother trying to get me to come meet him over at his house, because they was going to his house, him and a group. But I didn't pay no mind. Like I said, I'm trying to toy with the streets and get myself, you know, back in position. So I ended up leaving and going to New York, right? Went to New York, came back, then went back to the little small city that I stayed in, but now I'm finna go to college there, right? So I'm going there so I could go to college. Think nothing of it all these years, right? So me and my brother, he ended up leaving, going to St. Louis. So we used to talk on the phone a lot, because, you know, we Muslims. We got a younger brother, but he wasn't Muslim at the time, right? He Muslim now, alhamdulillah, but at the time he wasn't Muslim. So, you know, me and him we would talk. And when I started when I got into college, I ended up becoming a 5%er, right? So, you know, me and him would talk and this and that, and he would be moving around. And he ended up leaving St. Louis, going to a whole nother city. And, you know, he used to talk to me about all the Muslims that he would be around. And he used to be like, you know, because, you know, this is my brother. Like my brother. So I remember him was telling me, like, man, everybody that I be around, all the Muslims I be around, they fluent in Arabic. They all be studying this, and they be on this level, and they, you know, like they students. They trying to go overseas, and you know, he was just like, man, you know, he was feeling bad, because he was like, man, I know the alphabet, but I still can't speak no Arabic. You know, the stuff they studying, I don't be studying with them. You know, he was kind of being a little hard on himself, right? and it's funny, because when we were still in the streets before we got our deen together, me and him both used to talk about going to Africa. We was like, we was going to make all this money in the streets, and then we going to go to Africa and get on our deen. Start going to the masjid. We going to get all this money up. No idea how we going to get the money to Africa, because we ain't got it in the bank. And I guess around that time, you probably could have just put it in a bag and flew it. But we ain't got no plans. We still kids. You know what I'm saying? We not adults while we having these conversations. And I remember, because, you know, he was talking about he was going to grow his hair all the way down his back like a black prince. And he going to get this big pyramid on his back. So, you know, we was talking about going overseas to Africa and just being Muslim. once we got all this money made. So so now he's with some guys who they getting ready to leave. And he was like, man, they finna go overseas and they like this and they like that. So one of them guys is who eventually, one of the guys who he used to be around is Abdul Latif. And he introduced me to Abdul Latif, the first online Islamic university I started going to. It was Abdul Latif, right? So now we're going to fast forward to present time. 5 years ago, I get introduced to a brother through someone else. And he gave a class about hadith. He did 3 classes on hadith, but he started off with talking about Imam Bukhari, his biography, his books. Then he went and started talking about Tirmidhi or either Imam Dawood. But he did those 3. I can't remember if he started with Dawood or Tirmidhi first. But it was so beautiful. And it was during Ramadan. So when Ramadan was over, it ended. And I remember sending him a message like, this is the only time me and him talked as far as that. Send him a message like, man, when you going, because he said he was going to do the rest of them when he get the time. And I'm like, man, when you going to finish that class? When you going to start that class back up on hadith? Because I was in love with it, man. I remember Ramadan, I'm walking around just in tune while the classes is live and stuff, man. I'm just walking and listening to it like mesmerized. Like, man, this boy he nice. So last weekend, so I've been locked in with him for 5 years, right? Last weekend, he's talking about his life and his journey. So close to the end of it, while he's talking about his journey, where he's from, he started off as part of the Tablighi Jamaat. But he's 13 years old. He's 13, 14 years old, right? So he started off with the Tablighi Jamaat. He really want to learn. He's always in the masjid, but he's around the Tablighi Jamaat. So he agreed. He said that they had Sahih Bukhari in there. So he said him and one of his friends, they just got hooked on Sahih Bukhari. So he said, the Tablighi Jamaat, they didn't read it, but they had it. And he said the man told him, if you go out with us for 40 days, I'll let you have the whole set of Sahih Bukhari. Right? So he was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go out with y'all for 40 days. So he said, dude, let him take the volume that he was reading. He reading volume 1. So he take volume 1 with him. And since they was in the Midwest, they going everywhere in the Midwest. So the Tablighi, a lot of people don't know, the Tablighi Jamaat got a major stronghold in Chicago. They basically meet, like from where they are, if they all in New York, California and all that, Chicago is like a headquarter for them. So they had this big meeting and where they sheikhs and stuff come, they meet in Chicago once a year. So they're going to travel and end a 40-day run in Chicago. So as he was saying, he was like, so one of the first places we went to was this city that I'm in right now. So he said, when we go to the city, he said, I met a brother named Abdullah. I'm instantly bust out laughing. He talking about my brother. He said, man, I met this brother, man, named Abdullah. He was like, mashallah, man, my old head. He was like, man, I ain't seen that brother in ages. He was like, man, I love that brother. And he made a dua for him. And then he was like, Abdullah, if you hear this, get in touch with me. And I'm sitting up listening to it like, this dude talking about my brother. So when he come here with the Tablighi Jamaat, they put them with my brother. My brother was with the Tablighi Jamaat. It's a Tabliki masjid. So my brother was the one showing them around. So when he says this, he was like, he's showing us around. He was like, but on the slide, this brother keeps giving me these cassettes. He not telling me what's on them. He not saying anything about it. But we with the Tabliki Jamaat, and on it, like he said, on the slide, he's giving me these cassettes and not really saying anything. This dude was the same little kid that I seen with my brother. We still kids too, though. Keep in mind, we just older than him. We not adults. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, so he giving me these cassettes. So he said, when I started listening to these cassettes, it was introducing me to a version of Islam that I never heard before. He was giving him them tapes by Abu Usama and Dawood Adi. So this was his introduction to Salafiyah. This is his first time knowing what Salafiyah is, hearing about what Salafiyah is. But my brother he just gave him, like, here, he keep handing him a few tapes. So then as he's listening to them, and then when they leave here, after they spent their days here, they went to Wisconsin. And he said when he got to Wisconsin, and he's showing the other brothers, like another brother in Illinois gave me these cassettes. So that as he's listening to them, although they with the Tabliki Jamaat too, but these two brothers happen to be Salafi. So they telling him, but see, you had to keep in mind, at one point in time, the Salafis didn't talk like they talk now. Trust me. I mean, some of the harshness as far as the boycotting you, yeah, but like, you can't go to another masjid, you can't listen to another person, all that crap. They didn't do that at one point in time. It was just stuff like if you didn't have a full beard, they wouldn't salam you, little stuff like that. And the colors, if you didn't have all black on. But like, if you talk to another person that didn't call themselves Salafi, it wasn't like you a deviant. Okay? Especially when Abu Uwais was around. But it was a lot of fighting between them going on. So everything was cool. So as I'm listening to it, I record that little part and send it to my brother. And I'm going in my head, because one, he was a little kid, and when my brother said the stuff he said, I didn't want no parts of the masjid. I didn't go around them. So I looked at him crazy. You understand? And now today, this dude is one of my teachers. Went overseas, graduated. I'm talking about decent, nice. But some of the path that he ended up on was from a cassette that my brother gave him. While my brother is in the fold of being the Salafi, but this is the only masjid in town. And he didn't go up to them, he wasn't going up to the masjid, oh, you Tablikis. He was in the ranks with them. They gave him keys to the masjid. He had keys to the masjid. He used to go clean the masjid before Jumu'ah. Used to go, they used to invite my brother to their house to eat. He was sitting down eating with their families. You know what I'm saying? He used to try to pull me in, but I wouldn't go because that statement that he made, which I think he picked it up from one of them cassettes where, how they got that over aggression and, that little prison, that little streetish, look at your wife, you got to kill him. And, how they misinterpret the deen. My brother don't think like that now. He didn't think like that long. But when he said that, right? But the point is, the gentleness, man, that he still even had with this brother, because he's with the Tabliki Jamaat. And the brothers in Wisconsin who knew a little bit more about Salafia than my brother did put him on a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? But like him and my brother just made a connection, right? But like it's just crazy, man. And my brother had that gentleness with him, man, and continued to, you know, giving them little tapes. Wasn't like, man, you tablighi, you deviant. You know, he didn't do none of that crazy stuff. Which at the time they wasn't really crazy like that. At the time. You know what I'm saying? But and now this man is my teacher. And when my brother was sitting around talking about all his friends and this and that and all these students he around and they all getting ready to go overseas and how he is and they fluent in Arabic because they had that you know, before 9/11, what 9/11 happened in 2001. But anyway, before 9/11, Saudi Arabia used to fund a school in Virginia where they had, you could go learn Arabic there. And then they had some things when you come out the Arabic program where you basically learning like Islamic studies. And it was really kind of preparing you and prepping you so that you can go overseas and go to the University of Medina or Mecca or Azhar or some of the schools in like Riyadh or Jeddah, some of the schools that's surrounding Saudi Arabia. So, you know, like Abdul Latif and him, they went to that school in Virginia. And, you know, I think he said Hamza Abdul Razak was in there too, but you know, Hamza Abdul Razak was a lot older than them. You know, a lot of people ain't really met him, man. Hamza Abdul Razak and like Dawood Adib, man, they not young. They not young people. But anyway, it just blew my mind. And you know how he was talking about he hadn't met my brother. So I was able to reconnect. He ain't seen my brother in ages. So I was able to reconnect him and my brother, man. Told my brother, and then gave my brother the information to where he could contact him. And just the way that if it went full circle, and you know, had I wasn't involved in that street Muslim thing, but like Allah has his way, I could have made that same connection with him like right then and there. But I just looked at him as a little kid and I only seen him that one time. I didn't really talk to him, but he kind of acted like he wanted to be in the streets. You know what I'm saying? From what I remember. You know what I'm saying? And like all of it had totally, completely left my mind until I heard what he was saying last week. And I was like, man, I remember him. I remember that. You know what I'm saying? But this man started off as a tablighi. And just 2-3 cassettes. Like they going out for 40 days. My brother give him the cassettes. They leaving to going to Wisconsin. He's listening to the cassettes. Now he meet a couple of African American brothers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who Salafi. He tell them about the cassettes. They start explaining more to him about Salafia, but he's already having differences with the Tablighi Jamaat because he's reading Sahih Bukhari. Keep in mind, he was reading Sahih Bukhari before he left. They told him, and as an incentive, if you go do 40 days, you can have this full set of Sahih Bukhari. And he said he remembered why he was reading it. Same thing they told me. One of the Tablighis came and told him, why are you reading this? He was like, man, this is hadith. This teach me about my religion. And he said the dude told him, you don't go read a book about how to do surgery and then do a surgery on yourself. You will hurt yourself. This book is a book for doctors. So by you reading it, you will hurt yourself. And this is blowing his mind because he's benefiting from Sahih Bukhari, him and one of his friends. He's only going out and traveling with them so he can get the full set of Sahih Bukhari for free. And Sahih Bukhari was costing about $200 at the time. You know what I'm saying? It's still costing like it costs now. And he's a little kid. He's about 15 years old. He ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? So as he taking one of the volumes with him. So as he's reading Bukhari, he's starting to see a lot of what they're doing is going against Bukhari. So now when my brother give him the cassette, and he's listening to Dawood Adib now, okay, right? So now he got a name to put with what he's saying. Oh, okay, this stuff they doing is bid'ah. We not supposed to be doing bid'ah. I know it's strange because I'm reading Sahih Bukhari. Now when he meet the guys in Wisconsin, they put him on a little bit more. So by the 35th day, they went somewhere. They're a little bit closer to Chicago. Why they came through? Well, we right next to St. Louis, but they came through here and then went up to Wisconsin, and then was going from Wisconsin to Chicago, which Wisconsin is pretty close to Chicago. For real. Might even be, it's right next to Chicago. So anyway, they brought in like one of the sheikhs or something, and he was like, the sheikh was saying he reading Bukhari, and he was like, Bukhari, he really was like, Bukhari is what saved him. The hadiths is what saved him. It wasn't necessarily the cassettes and what the Salafis was telling him. It was Sahih Bukhari. So he said he called his mom them and had them get him a bus ticket, had set it up where he could go to the bus station and get on the bus and come back home. So he only did 35 days. So he didn't get to get the set of Sahih Bukhari, but that changed that man's whole entire life. Right? And when my brother lived there, he told me, when I told him what masjid the brother in, and like, man, dude, the man over there. And my brother was like, man, when I was homeless, I used to sleep in that masjid. So now the same little dude who he gave the cassettes and played a role in changing that brother path is the man at the masjid that this man used to sleep in when he was homeless. But done played a role in, now they got a whole bigger, better masjid and bought like the apartment buildings next door, and they rent the apartments to fund the masjid. Real instrumental over there. Got scholars and everything, man. And it blew my mind because now this same little kid is one of my teachers. And I benefit from him tremendously. But all it took was a little bit of gentleness. And that brother is Salafi the right way. Although he was given some cassettes that had a little bit of harsh speech in it. But see, so with what's going on with what I'm saying, it was the gentleness that pulled him in. The gentleness and what he's reading in Sahih Bukhari. These individuals would get a whole lot further if they chose that route. You know what I'm saying? With that gentleness and kindness. And let him, they weren't, like I said, they wasn't forcing you. You could, if you don't listen to these people, you're a deviant. You can only listen to these people and these people only. It wasn't like that back then. But then at the same time, all of them was kind of united. You know what I'm saying? Generally, the people who they have the most hatred for is people that used to be a part of their group that excelled them. You know what I'm saying? Like at one point in time, all of them was right here. And then the group who did this, those is the people that they warn against. So like right now I understand why they causing fitna with him where he at, because he was a little kid in this little university in Virginia with them. And he done excelled all of them. Him and Abdul Latif. They had Abdul Latif and Abdul Latif from Philly. So, they was all one. And I'm telling you, anybody that you see them warning against and trying to tear down heavily years ago, and then I'm talking about, we could take this all the way back. Just for the simple fact, this is 2025, right? The brother was over there in a university. Look, this still 97. After he went back, after he left the Tabligis and went back to where he's from, within a matter of months, he was in Virginia at school, homeless. The man, look, he's a little kid, man. He like 16. This dude like 16 years old, sleeping in a tent by the door of the school, waiting for the doors to open up so he can go to school because he ain't had nowhere to live. That's one M, man. That's one M. Until he did that, and then one of the teachers and them finally caught him, because he would roll up he said he would roll his tent and stuff up, and basically one of the teachers caught him. So they had a house where they was paying for, like, buying rooms. It was one house and they was renting out rooms. So they paid for him a room there and food. And then they gave him and Abdul Latif and another brother a scholarship, basically where they was giving them money to continue to come to the school. And while he's in that process, and he moving with them, they went to Hajj or whatever, and he applied for like the University of Medina. So he ended up getting accepted to the University of Medina. So he leaves, and he gonna go home and spend his time, the summer at home with one of the other guys. But basically, that whole little clique, they excelled. And like he said, he talk about times when he went out to eat with Hassan Somali, because he trying to explain to this dude, all of us, we don't have an issue. But the thing is, he don't have an issue with them, but they have an issue with him. Because imagine him being a little kid, he coming around y'all trying to learn Arabic. He don't even know the Arabic. And then he get the Arabic straight up out the university. He get his Arabic to where he didn't even have to finish a full year. And now he's up here and y'all still in the exact same place y'all was 20 years ago when y'all met. Now y'all done found some people in the same city who running around trying to dirty up names and stuff. But the whole point is that gentleness, man. It's that gentleness. That brother, me and my brother. Man, we can't even hold that brother's shoes right now. You know what I'm saying? That man done surpassed us in many ways, but my brother done been around him. Like I said, he met him as a kid, but when the youngin went to Virginia, when he went to the University of Medina, he came home one summer to get married. He married a sister in Philly, and him and my brother ended up living in the same city. So now him and my brother done bumped into each other. They done linked back up in the same city while he's on his break from the University of Medina. So that's when they ended up linking back up. But then when he went to go back to school and do what he do, him and my brother lost contact until last weekend. By me listening to him. And all this time, I had no idea he even knew my brother. Like I said, I didn't recognize him. You know what I'm saying? I didn't recognize him. But alhamdulillah, man. See, people could take a page from that, man. Be gentle, man. You ain't gotta look, man, you tablighi, you deviant. And see, I never been that. That ain't in my nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, even now, I don't disrespect that masjid because they do a lot of good. At the end of the day, especially for their own people, they chilling. I'm gonna tell you this, man. With them foreigners from India and Pakistan, whether you call them tablighi, whether you call them whatever you want to call them, and then some of them Arabs, man, who was living in the dirt over there. 16 people living in a house just to make it. Eating rice and potatoes. Now they over here in America. I've never seen one of them that was doing bad. They doing good. They own their houses. They own their cars. They own the masjids. And if it wasn't for them taking the masjids over, the masjid here probably would be closed. It'd probably still be raggedy. Because that's how they ended up taking it over. The masjid was raggedy. They came in and threw the money to fix the masjid up. And then eventually just took it from them on paper. They fixed it up, established the Jumu'ah, established the 5 daily prayers. They doing good, man, and they do a lot for people. Even when it's time for zakat to be paid, that stuff coming out of their pocket when they go and give people envelopes after Ramadan. Because ain't no African Americans putting in that money, man. Ain't no, now some of them will pay zakat al-fitr, but the zakat al-fitr might be like $6 per family member. So if it's just you and you may have a wife, you gave them $12. But you put $12 in for zakat al-fitr, and then when Ramadan ended, they give you an envelope with $300-400. That's coming from them. And I'm gonna be honest, they was excluding the African Americans until I said something to them one year when they tried to ask me for some money. And I understand what is supposed to be food because of Bakari. But they do a lot of good, man. Even on a simple fact that they keep a building open for you can go pray 5 times a day in it. Okay? Where you can go do Taraweeh prayer in it. And it's legitimate. You just got these knuckleheads tricking people into thinking that you can't go pray in another masjid and you can't go do things at another masjid. Just trying to keep you up under their leadership because you mess around and get away from them like everybody else and hear some real education. Then you start looking at them with a little anger. Like, man, these dudes been fooling me all this time. But you got to at least give them credit for that. They're establishing places for people to pray. They're establishing places where, just like when you come there for Ramadan and they host the Ramadan dinners, they be the ones be providing that food. Even if it's for them to get a reward, they still feeding the community. You can go there and make wudu, nice plush carpet, pretty buildings for the most part. Listen to Jumu'ah, get your rewards for showing up, getting your name written down by the angels. You at least got to give them something for that. They doing more than most. And see, just like, it's just, you got to give them some credit, man. And as far as they people, they be straight. They be straight. And like I say to everybody, Man, don't get caught up under that crazy stuff that they thinking because anybody that's Muslim, strip the labels away from everybody. Take away the Salafi label, take away the Shia label, take the Sufi label away, take the Ashari, take the Hanafi, Maliki, Hanbali, Shafi, take all the labels away. And every Muslim that's really in the fold of Islam is going to say that Islam is about Quran and Sunnah. Everybody is calling to Quran and Sunnah with their tongue, just like y'all screaming Quran Sunnah with the correct understanding, but y'all don't have it. And it's obvious. And I'm only mentioning that because to make it clear, it really ain't no difference. It's really no difference. It's just one group, minhaj, they take an extra step to make sure that they understand better. But you have to actually be taking those steps. Not just wearing the name of the people who take those steps. So, in essence, the ones who take that extra step to make sure that they understand the way that the companions did on every issue, they had the potential to be better. But then some madhabs already took those steps and they documented it in madhabs as far as the evidence that they had. So some people just stick to a madhab, and for the most part they be pretty decent. The madhab's just not flawless. But they stick to a madhab if they really got somebody to teach them and they really know how to walk through it, or they just be like they just be the same as y'all. I'm Hanafi. I'm Shafi'i, and maybe 8 years ago they had somebody who was Shafi'i but may never really went and officially learned Shafi'i fiqh, but they know a little bit of Shafi'i, and then they talking to you about Shafi'i stuff. Now you claiming Shafi'i, but you haven't really learned it from beginning to end. You may have just learned certain aspects of it. With Hanafi, Hanbali, Salafi, even the Sunni. A lot of people who call themselves Sunni Muslims will tell you hadiths ain't real. They superstition. But they'll still say the deen is about Quran and the Prophet. So like I say, man, it really ain't what they chalking it up to be. And when you say that, then that's when they come in with the term, well, you's an idiot. How can Quran Sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba and the Salaf be a problem? How can you hate that? We're not talking about actually Quran Sunnah and having an understanding of the companions. That's not what this conversation is about. That is the haq. The conversation is about what y'all implementing doesn't add up to that. Nobody is knocking the call to Quran and Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf. No Muslims with a right mind that's in the fold of Islam have a problem with the companions. They know it's Quran. They know that it's Hadith. Even if they reject some of them, if they make salat, right? They make salat, they involved in Hadiths. If they make wudu, they involved in Hadiths. Even if they looking at it in the Quran trying to say, we getting it from the Quran, this and that. Because let me tell you something. If the Quran never went into the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and came off of his tongue, you wouldn't have that. So even the Quran that you reading came off the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So y'all can't escape it. You Quranists and this and that. The Quran you reading came off the tongue of Rasulullah. You still needed the Rasul to get that. So y'all need to wake up and smack yourself. Is what you need to do. So That's all it is, man. So don't let them buy into that and cloak you under that speech. When somebody correct them or call them out on some foolishness, and they try to make like you calling them out like you disagree with Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma, or the understanding of the companions. Nobody is saying that. Take the labels away from everybody, and every Muslim is going to say they know it's about the Quran, they know it's about the Prophet, and they know that the companions was righteous people. Nobody disagree with that. That's all Islam is. But y'all chalking it up like it's more than that. And once, like I say, when somebody call you out on something, y'all want to act like they're calling against that call when nobody is saying anything about that. The problem is implementation. And with gentleness, we'll get a lot further. We'll get a lot further. Lose that old prison gang-banging street mentality, and the Muslim will be a whole lot further off. And y'all force people to match y'all energy and then play victim. Y'all force people to match our energy, man, and then play victim. And and I'm saying this, for African Americans, it really ain't getting us nowhere. It really ain't. It ain't doing nothing but boosting people's egos. We still, now in pockets they got some things going on, but we still ain't got all our businesses. We not all straight. But the people that y'all looking at and the people that y'all talking about, they straight. They take care of each other, man. They take care of one another. They make sure everybody is good. They make sure everybody get to the bag, and they make sure people going to the masjid doing at least what they feel like is Islam. They gonna be in there. They gonna be in there making them prayers, and in some places it wouldn't even be no masjid if it wasn't for them. Some people wouldn't even have a place to pray at if it wasn't for them. So you gotta respect them for that. And I know it, and I could definitely say it here. If it wasn't for foreigners, man, they wouldn't have nowhere to pray, man. It wouldn't be no masjid, man. We wouldn't keep it together. And like I say, my father was a Muslim, right? Under the War of Deen Act. He left it, but the understanding he had. But my point is this: the Imam came down here in the 70s. Like after Elijah Muhammad died and War of Deen took the nation over in like 76, 77, they sent that Imam here in like 79, 80. It took them about 20 years before they got a building. They was at like karate schools or somebody's house. You know, somebody had a karate school, and they would be like, when the karate classes is over, they would meet and teach that War of Deen stuff. It took them about 20 years to get a building, man. And then when they got that building, on paper, they had it a little longer, but without, they didn't even make it. They didn't even make it 6 good years, man. Them foreigners had to come in and throw money around. I'm just keeping it 100. And they was under the CARE Act and grants and all type of little stuff, man. And I'm telling you that I know this for a fact. And to keep it 100, I know the brother personally who was heavy in the streets. If it wasn't for him giving them a nice chunk of change of drug money, they wouldn't even have been able to get the building. So, just keeping it Dougie, I'm not trying to knock them. But y'all gotta still respect them, man. Because one, they Muslim. Two, they done established places for you to come bump your head on the rug, as they say. It's just disrespectful, man. You disrespecting the Deen of Islam. And me, from the way that I study and the things that I learn, y'all really being ungrateful. Because Allah Azza wa Jal made a way for y'all. You know what I'm saying? And then especially like for us personally. I'm talking about for the places where in cities like this one. And it's in the majority of them. It ain't the majorities of the masjids in the 50 states is not African American ran. Even if you go to a city where the African Americans do have a building and they still have issues, you might have to come out the back door. The sisters might have to go through the back door, and the steps is real raggedy and small, and wudu rooms might not work. But alhamdulillah, they doing what they can. But the ceilings need a whole new roof. Imam might fall through the whole roof doing work on it by himself. Almost break his back and die in the masjid because he done fell through the roof. You know, it's just they need a little bit more respect than that, man. That's all I'm saying. And with some kindness, people could go a whole lot further, man. And y'all fighting all this fighting and all this arrogance up on we the best. When everybody say Quran, Sunnah, and love for the companions. Now, yeah, you got some Shiites who may say things about Aisha and certain companions, but they say this and that about Ali. They love Ali. They might not love all the companions, but they love some of them. You might have Sufis and different things but everybody, every Muslim knows it's about Quran, Sunnah, and the understanding of the companions. That's just regular old basic Islam 101. Y'all the ones who keep trying to market it like it's some overly hyped up supreme, we know a secret that nobody else know, so we better, and we got beef with all 50 states. We got beef with Muslims in all 50 states. That's not problematic. When we in Africa, we got beef with all of Egypt, all the Muslims in Egypt, except for here. See, y'all, you know what I'm saying? We go to the Sudan, we go to Ghana, we go to Ethiopia. We got beef with all of the Muslims, except for whatever little group that stands under our thumb. When you come to the UK, we got beef with all of the UK. We got beef with all of Canada. Every Muslim in Canada, except for whatever little group want to be a part of us. We got beef with every Muslim in the UK. And then sitting around talking about that's what Salafiyya is. No, it's not. You tell me, name some companions that got beef in every city that was in the Muslim world at that time. They got beef with with all the Muslims in every city, except for this one particular masjid that do what we say, that jump when we say jump, and be still when we say be still. Show where that's from the minhaj. Just show it. So even like us from the streets, or who've been in the streets, or I'll put it this way, in the urban cities, it's all the streets, whether you in them or not. You know what they is. You go to school with the street people, your brothers, your cousins, people in your family, street people. Even if you shoot hoop or play sports or get good grades, you still live in that element. There's always somebody who get drunk. Every party they go to, they get into a fight. Everywhere they go, they always fighting and arguing with somebody. But you know what they say? Everybody else is the problem. But you might have 10 people with you. Everybody know about that one friend, or that one cousin, or that one uncle. You know what I'm saying? That one auntie. Even on the female side, everywhere they go, people got to get a hold of them, or they gonna get into a fight, or they gonna get to arguing with somebody. Even if they go in a restaurant, they gonna argue with the waitress. They gonna argue with the people at the drive-thru. But everybody else is the problem but them. Y'all that drunk uncle. Y'all that drunk uncle. Y'all the only people that's into it with Muslims in every city, and swear up and down y'all being attacked. All 50 states y'all into it with Muslims. But y'all talking about everybody, the whole world is Hizbis. It ain't not one city that y'all could go to. We talking about 50 states. This don't even name every single city in the 50 states. Now, I'm not saying all 50 states. I'm saying all 50 states, but every single city in all 50 states, y'all got a problem. Y'all into it with Muslims in every single city in America. But swear up and down, y'all being attacked and everybody else is Hizbis. Y'all don't see a problem with that? Y'all call that Islam? Something wrong with that, man. And then when you understand the history, and then you start to understand, see, some of those people, they all started right here together 20-something years ago. Now 20 years later, all them other people up here, and they still down here. And then they use y'all to attack them people. Y'all don't see a problem with that? Y'all need to get it together, man. You know how a person get mad and they just be tripping and be like, man, I need to go lay down. I need to just take me a nap. Y'all need to take a nap, wake up, smack yourself in the mouth, take another nap, wake up and smack yourself in the face, take another nap, and then get up and smack yourself again, and then change. But anyway, man, so I'm done with that, man. I ain't gonna say nothing else about it. You know, I know I always say that, and then I do good, and then I see it again. But the new year coming up, I got other things going on. You know, I'm trying to learn this madhab from the beginning to the end, and I'm trying to be serious about it. And now I have to adjust my intentions, because I think a part of me want the ijazas that come with it, and then at the end get the diploma, the degree. I think I might be chasing it a little bit, so I need to tone it down and get the knowledge and absorb it, because I'm looking at it and I'm going through it. I'm a hadith person, man. I'm looking at this stuff, man. I'm going through it, and like I said, we doing comparative, so we looking at a little bit of, and I've been through this, but on a smaller level, comparative fiqh, and just so that I can get the basics and the foundation of understanding how fiqh work and Sharia and this and that. But we didn't necessarily do a deep dive into all of their issues with wudu and all this. So now we taking a look at all of them. And in my head, I'm a Dalil person. I'm a Hadith person. I'm sitting up looking at this stuff like, man, where's the Dalil for this? Where they come up with this, man? Who did this? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to tone it down, because I'm about to become disruptive. But I knew it was going to happen, because we going through these classes and they talking and we following the books. But I really want to be like this. Where's the Dalil for this? Where did they come up with this? Why is it 37 different ways to do this? Where did they get this? So I gotta tone myself down and just humble myself and learn the madhab. And I've done this before. I done had stuff where I had to answer it in accordance to how they wanted to when I knew different hadith and other things. Not saying that it made me right, but I may have been, like when they say it's a difference of opinion, I may have been on the other side of that opinion. I'll put it that way. But I'm serious, man. I be looking at this stuff, man. We be in these classes. I be looking at this stuff in my head, and the teacher is talking and they explaining, and we going through these points, and we, the class we have class discussions and all that. But I'm still in my head. Hey, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Why do they have 19 different ways to wipe your head for wudu? Where do they get these 19 ways from? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is there 30 ways to put water in your hand and do this? Where do these 30 different ways come from? Not saying that it is 30 ways. I'm just speaking without speaking. Where all this come from? I need a hadith. And I deep dive. Let me see the Quran ayat. Just like when I said about the covering. When you go and look at the covering, the two ayats about covering, the main one, and then the correction because they wasn't covering right. When you go and look at the Quran ayat, where does it state anything about a specific color? Where does it state specific things about this? That's why I'm saying when you go to the Quran and look at it first, okay, there's no restrictions. Whatever clothes you have, especially at that time because they was poor people. So they was covering themselves up in all type of stuff. The men, some of the stuff they was wearing. Because these was extremely impoverished people. Where's all these restrictions and requirements and all this stuff that y'all putting on it? The Quran don't have no restrictions. Now we go to the hadiths and see, all this opposite. But that's enough about that. But like I said, man, so I got other things to focus on, man. And at the same time, trying to keep these young brothers head above water. You know what I'm saying? Because they out there swimming with the guppies, B. You know what I'm saying? When you a baby, guppies can look like sharks. But as you get older, you just be like this. Oh man, these ain't nothing but bluegills. These ain't nothing but guppies. Man, y'all catch still tadpoles. But when you're a baby, it may look like sharks. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, man, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, man. Be gentle, man. Have some kindness, man. We all Muslims. We all Muslims. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.